Welcome, welcome, welcome. Blessings. Lovely, lovely to be back here to do a wonderful Affirmed Heart online or virtual session. It's been a while. But actually I'm looking forward to being able to dive in more to mental well-being, emotional well-being, and most importantly in the aspect of us supporting our children and of course in the area of education. My name is Sarah Utsaghan. Just before I get ahead of myself, and I'm the founder of Affirmed Heart. And Affirmed Heart is all about being able to affirm people in truth, in well-being, in peace, and in wholeness. And one thing about Affirmed Heart is that it's not just specific to just one area of well-being, but also areas that consist of life and of godliness. And I'm a great believer that it doesn't matter whether you are a mother, a wife, or just a woman. The ability to walk in wellness is key. We hear it a lot, we see it a lot, but being able to understand what that looks like for individuals is so important. And with a lot going on in the world and in life, it's sometimes easy to get carried away with so many things. But the most important thing that Affirmed Heart is here to do by the grace of God is to continuously affirm people in the things of God and the ways of God, whether that be life, whether that be godliness. And so today's session is all about emotional well-being and education. And someone might say, why are you doing that? What is the need for all of this? Well, a little backstory about myself. I'm very, very not just passionate, but very proactive in working within education and the mental health. I've got up to a decade, if you want to say 10 years of experience in working with young adults, with young people. And the importance of being even a mother myself, knowing that actually life is all about learning, mental well-being is all about learning, and keeping our mental well-being is all about learning and unlearning. And so today's session is very, very dear to my heart because it's something that I'm constantly at times asked on and off. And I just thought, it's good to do a live session that can always be available for those that need it or want to hear. And so I'm currently live on Facebook and it will be uploaded on the YouTube. But really the purpose of emotional well-being and education is really to help, whether you're a mother, whether you're a woman, whether you have a child, whether you work with children or you work with young adults, whoever you work with, being able to support their learning needs. Because learning is something, as I said, is always consistent. It's ongoing. And because it's ongoing, it's easy to assume that we all know what to do and how to do it. When we look at the fact that our children may be in school or starting school, whatever the stage they are in, it's easy to sometimes put that pressure on them to go, get, prove. But there's a lot of children that are actually suffering silently, and they are actually in need of those in their care to be more attentive to their learning needs, their learning desires, and of course the way that God has created them. And so today's session really online, it's free, no charge, nothing, to really bring education and to break every stigma when it comes to supporting your child's learning style and even the child in your life. It's something that we see all the time, but actually it is also something that I know needs to be addressed. And so today we're just looking at even what the word of God says in Proverbs 18:15. It says, an intelligent heart acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. And most of us at times, we want children to always acquire knowledge, to gain knowledge, to be smart, to be clever, to understand. But have we actually looked at what it means to acquire the knowledge or how to seek out the knowledge? Because one thing we see here about the heart is that it takes a heart and the ear for someone to be well. It takes a heart and the ear for one to learn and to grow in their education or in their knowledge. And so really when Proverbs 18:15 puts this out, it's something that we must hold on to, meditate on and practicalize. And so we look at that. We look at the fact that actually emotional well-being matters in learning. Some people may overlook it. Some people may ignore it. Your child needs to also know that you understand as a parent, as a guardian, as a caregiver, that you are also aware of their emotional well-being as they learn. They want to also know that you are a safe place. The place that you take them to is a safe place. Where they learn is a safe place. And the purpose of emotional well-being and why it matters in learning is that it boosts the focus for our children. When our children have healthy emotional well-being, they're able to retain information, memory, they're able to be more resilient. At times you may think to yourself, every time my child comes home, they're tired, they don't want to do anything. Maybe it's because they just feel very overwhelmed. Maybe they feel exhausted. They've used all their emotions, they've used all their mind, they've done so much during the day that actually they may be quite frustrated when they get home. Or your child at school may always look like they're not interested. Maybe the teacher says to you, oh, the child is not focusing, or the child needs a bit more time. Whatever the area is, it is important to know that it all starts within. And yes, at times when it comes to learning, when it comes to education, when it comes to advancing, nobody's always going to be all excited, apart from those that actually enjoy learning, right? But actually, we must look at the fact that if we want to boost our children's focus, memory, and resilience, we've got to also look at their emotional well-being. Because with emotional health, it makes them feel safe, it makes them be supported and understood. These are the three areas that actually will cause our children, whether they're in school, out of school, at home, to actually enjoy learning. Because I know that learning for many people may look like just being in the educational system, or even just being at church, whatever the sector of learning is. But actually, if a child doesn't feel safe, supported, and understood, they're not fully well in their place of learning or advancing. A child can be very clever, but if they are actually not supported or understood, that stance of their smartness or their intelligence can last maybe for a short while, but then it can begin to decline if they don't actually feel understood or supported or safe. And then the other aspect of why it does matter is because, one, when it comes to learning, some children may have anxiety, they may have low self-esteem, they may even feel misunderstood, as I said before, and all of this can block learning progress. If there is any loophole or area in your child's life or anyone that you are working with that you feel to yourself, this child's self-esteem is not confident at the moment. It's not just telling them you can do it that will work. It's not just telling them, oh, it will be okay. But it's actually taking time to look at how they learn, what is it that they're learning, and if there's other ways to go about that. And so we're going to just look at that, actually understanding the learning styles, because we may have heard of it, we may have seen it, but actually it's good to actually understand the visual stance of it, that as every child, every girl, every boy learns differently, every parent must also understand that they learn differently. And sometimes even as a parent or as a guardian or as an educator, you may want to put your own way and methods of learning on your child or on the children around you. And it's important that you can always pause and look at what really is that child's learning style. Of course, things are not always going to be the way we want it all the time, or they want it all the time, but actually understanding the way that a child learns naturally can help us advance that and even support it with other areas. And so there's 4 areas here where it comes to visual learners, someone that prefers images, they use charts, they like colors, they like to see what they are learning. They don't just want to hear it, they like to see it. And so sometimes it may mean that they just want to have the paperwork, or they want to have a video, or they want something that is more tangible so that they can take in the information more. They may read something but want to draw it so that whatever they're drawing or whatever they're connecting words to images for will last in their memory. And remember, memory and mood work together. So if a child is learning or someone is learning around you, if they are not actually having their style addressed, their mood will not always be the way you want it to be or they need it to be. Then we look at the auditory learning. I put the ear there. It benefits from discussions, people that like to have discussions or have a topic, question and answers when they're learning of something. Music may be playing at the background, as you can hear with this, as they learn. They don't want it dead quiet. They just need something to continuously stimulate their mind and their brain cells to continuously grasp the information. They also could be someone that's more, they take on verbal instructions. You can tell them something and they do it. Or they prefer to actually say what it is they need to do. They want to be able to hear it and be able to repeat it. Then there's also the learners that actually The kinesthetic learners, they thrive through their hands and activities and movement. And so here I put the body because there's no limit to movement. It's not just what you do with your hands, but even where your body is. Maybe it's the environment. These are people that and children that learn through an environment. A certain type of an environment causes them to grasp more things, causes them to comprehend better, causes them to articulate better. And so looking at the learning style of your child and any child you work with is important. Your child might work best with a lot of people. Your child may work best when there's not a lot of people. That doesn't mean your child has to choose one or the other, but they have to also develop the habits to help them learn in different environments and to be able to learn when they're on the move. Some children just like to read and write. And when they like to read and write, they like to, they enjoy taking notes. They like to make a list. They like to write and explain things. They like to ensure that they are reading everything just so that they can understand. Or they just like things written down. If you were to say to them, okay, if you do this and you do that, then, you will get that reward. To them, they can hear you, but they're not fully comprehending because it will be better if you just wrote it down. And so this that I'm bringing is both for the home and also in their school or educational environment. Because as a parent or any child carer or guardian, we've got to know what is the way that my child learns. Nothing is better, nothing is worse. But actually, it's being able to ensure that they are well in the things that they do. And if there's certain areas and subjects and topics that they learn better in a certain way, that's okay. There's no cookie cutter for our children. There's no one size fits all. There's no one way to A. There's no one way to being outstanding or thriving. And, I want us to break that stigma as well, especially in the Black community and Christian community, that there's only a certain way that a child is thriving or growing or doing well. If we don't know how our child learns, then really we are just trying to fit them into a box or fit them into a way of doing something that actually they will end up becoming burnt out with later on in life, or even in the next few months as they're in school. And I pray, God forbid, that won't be the case. So hopefully with all of these 4 areas that's been noted, it gives a great understanding of what your learning area could be. So a question to you is to ask, what is my child's natural way of learning? As we've seen, it's something just to think about and to take note about. Because when it comes to knowing, we've got to be able to link the learning styles to emotional well-being. Because as I've put in the box here, there's times when there's only one way your child is learning. They like to write and read. But actually, if they become overwhelmed or they become disinterested in what they're doing, then it means they need to change up. Maybe they need to listen more. They need to hear an audio. They need to have some music playing at the background. They need to have, something that will stimulate their nervous system to help them concentrate. They need to be able to maybe have imagery as they learn. And this is not just for young children. This is for teenagers, for young adults, and even anyone that is actually learning in any sector you're learning in. You've got to know what works for you. You've got to know what works for your child as well. You've got to be able to pause and pivot the style that is suitable for the support that you need to give and that you need to receive. If you ever feel that you are boxing yourself to always just learn by watching a video and seeing images or always on the move, then you've got to look at and try other things. Maybe you need to make more notes. Maybe you need to just listen more and make notes on what you listen to. You've got to be able to change it up a bit so that you are able to ensure that as you learn, your mood is high, your enjoyment of learning is high, peace is high, because when it comes to us linking our styles and emotional well-being, the one thing a child will need, and the one thing that anyone needs when they're learning, is to be able to value their own style. For example, I am multi-facet in my learning styles. And actually, it depends on what I'm doing that I can see how I learn. But if I never stop to look at that, I would just assume I'm only I only enjoy, drawing, or I only enjoy listening to things. But there's certain aspects of education, there's certain aspects of knowledge that you have to apply yourself to, but you have to adapt. And so the benefit of being well emotionally is also having your validation. Your child has to feel validated when they're learning. Because if a child doesn't fully feel validated, then what does that mean? If they don't feel like their value style is being acknowledged, If they don't feel like the way they're learning is working, they won't be able to feel good. They won't be able to feel confident. They won't be able to actually believe that they're able to achieve more than what they're doing. And even they're not even going to be able to address any struggles that they have, because they will feel that they need to mask it, they need to pretend, they've just got to show good results all the time, they have to be perfect, they have to be this and that. But actually, validation comes from when your child is able to say, do you know what, mommy? Do you know what, daddy? Do you know what, to the teacher, whoever, I am struggling with this. And so once they are able to say, I'm struggling, or I'm not sure about this, that is when we're able to look at the style that they're learning at and see if it can be shifted or changed so that they can actually adapt more understanding. And so the other point as well, when it comes to balancing the learning styles of emotional well-being, is adapting the methods. As I've said, confidence in our children grows when they are able to know that there's not just one way that they can learn, or one way that things are expected of them, or there's one thing that you need from them to show them that they are doing well. Adapting the methods and helping them to adapt to methods will help them to be confident in the weak subjects, and to be confident even in the subjects that they find so much strength in. And this is not about study, because study will come later on, but this is actually all about the style and the method in being able to learn, to comprehend information, to learn information before you begin to want to even say, how do I support them studying, support them, and thriving. So today is just, let's call it the foundation, basically. And the last area is self-awareness. When your child is self-aware that they actually love to read, or they may not love to read, it helps them to build the independence that they need to take on challenges and to actually overcome any obstacles, and to help them also, push forward and see, improvement in their learning at home and also in school. If your child is self-aware that they enjoy drawing, they enjoy hearing music, they enjoy seeing imagery when they're learning, if they're self-aware and they have that awareness, you will see your child be more independent in the things that they need to do. In the areas that they were struggling in, you will see that they can understand, if I go on the computer, because there's more visual aid here, I know that I will be able to, move a bit forward and quicker in my learning. But if I just stay in a textbook, or if I just stay in an exercise book, I'm not going to move forward. Then your child has come to a place that they understand that they know how to look after their well-being, and also they know that you as a parent and as a guardian and as a caregiver or educator, you know also how they learn, which is very important. And so the question again is, what can we adapt? What can we adapt to when needed? So when you need to adapt something, be ready to. If you're already someone that adapts things, great, but be more conscious, be more aware now going forward. And so we look at some practical strategies to being able to implement what this really looks like. So there's a few points here, but I'm going to keep it quite straight because you can read it. It's visually here in front. But a practical strategy in being able to continuously balance emotional well-being and learning styles for your child, or even for yourself, is to create emotionally safe spaces, praise effort, and not just outcomes. So praise the efforts that are being made, and don't just wait until you see the outcome to let your child know that actually they're doing well. Offer choice. Let your child choose whether they want to do more books do more work in books, or whether they want to go online or go onto an online educational system to do their learning. Give them the choice, because this builds the independence that they know. And this also helps you as a parent, as a caregiver, as an educator, to actually look at what the strengths and weakness of the child is, and look at the habits that you can use to build up any gaps. Again, use multi-sensory teaching. Mix it up. Everything doesn't have to be the same, so that it keeps them engaged. When we mix things up, their engagement is high. Some children do not like repetition. Some children love repetition. And so it goes back to not just imposing what you may want on your child, but actually balancing what you expect of them and what they do naturally, and letting it come together. Because when we mix things up, there is more engagement in learning and, producing and just doing things better. Also, integrate movement to your learning. Let there be a time where you can support their mental processing and reduce stress. There is times where they can work for short periods of time so that they are not being overwhelmed or cramming a lot of information into their head. Give them the ability to take short breaks. You know, sometimes in the African culture, there's a lot of go, 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 go. And if you see someone not going, you will say that they're not working hard enough or they're not doing well. But actually, all that we're doing when we keep telling our children to go, 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 is we are actually stressing them out. We're actually mentally stressing them out. And of course, yes, we want our children to work hard. We want them to go. We want them to do well. But there's also a thin line when we ourselves can see them breaking before us. And so we have to be able to understand that we can give them the support they need by being able to process information as much as they need to, so that they can continuously be well as they learn. And when they're learning, they're able to even retain the information that they're learning. Also, we have some times when we've got to check in on their feelings. Have some quick emotional check-ins. Are you doing okay? How is it going? Is there anything that you're finding difficult? Is there anything you need help with? Don't just assume. We shouldn't assume that, oh, everything is fine or everything is not fine. We should just also check in with them. We must have tasks and times for completion communicated clearly. If we want something that we want them to do and achieve in 15 minutes or 20 minutes, we let them know. We write it down. And if they don't achieve it, then we can ask them, why did you not achieve it? What was it that delayed you? And when we do that, we're able to look at any habits that they're creating in themselves or behaviors that make them procrastinate or reduce. And then if they're even rushing, we can also look and see if they're rushing their work, are they doing it well, or is there any gaps that they're missing? But being able to have tasks and times noted down clearly enables us to support them in being well, emotionally well. Because some children, when they rush things, it's because they're putting pressure on themselves, or they feel like, oh, time is going, or the expectation is high, so they just rush. But actually, to support their well-being, to let them know, don't rush to complete something, but don't take your time, don't be too long, but enable whatever you're doing. Do it well, and if there's any area you need to work on, make sure you do it well, and we can work on it. But if our children sometimes feel like they cannot tell us if they're doing something well, so they rush it and they quick, they're just doing things for performance. And we don't want to raise children that live by performance. You know, as old as I am, and I look back at my journey in learning, and even as I continuously learn, I look back and I think, you know, the system and the whole culture is all about performance, and many people keep falling through the cracks. There's so much need for learning needs now, because there is so much pressure that people put on themselves and put on their children that actually begins to break them, that they don't even know. But at the same time, there is also a need for performance, to be better than the person next to you, to be outstanding. But then it comes a time that if anything our children do is only because of performance, they will never be able to grow and do things independently and be actually satisfied with what they're doing and the way they're doing it, and learn from mistakes. Because at the back of their mind, they will always keep pushing just so that they can prove that they are better than somebody else. And if I add that is not a godly nature, that's not a godly habit, it's actually a carnal one. It's actual one that actually causes people to dwell in sin and not in faith when they're learning and developing their self or even their children. Again, we're asking that God will continuously help us, but most importantly, rewards over punishments is also there. So a question to ask yourself, what am I doing already and can do more of? It's something to ask yourself. What are you already doing that you need to change? What are you already doing that you can improve on? And as I touched on, anything that you're doing already, the practical strategies that I've shared and some that I will still share, is that if we learn all the things we've learned, we know our children's learning style. We know that why we need to support their emotional well-being, and we do all these things. But then we are faced with culture and social expectations. Those things itself can become non-effect. It can just basically wipe out everything that you've learned today or that you know already. Because culture and social expectations is a prime example of why emotional well-being really matters when it comes to education. Because the pressure to perform, as I said before, leads to decline in emotional and mental well-being. The stress that a child will hold within will cause them to act out, will cause them to be rude, will cause them to be naughty, will cause them to be in competition, will cause them to even begin to carry some ungodly characteristics, because the pressure and expectations that they have is making them feel like, I'm only doing this so that people can see me in a certain way. And one thing I would encourage as a parent and educator and everyone that may have a child is take away every culture and social expectations that you have on yourself and on your child. Because if you want them to be well, then you've got to ensure that you also allow them to think well. Build understanding and gain counsel where you need it. Check in with God and your child, and not the community. Support learning needs is part of parenting and should not be a stigma. It's important to know that everything that we do is part of walking with God. We must check in with God in all. We must be able to check in with our child, and most importantly, check in with the knowledge and information that is needed to support them. So the 3 things that I will leave with you is to take off any pressure, posture your child well by knowing the learning styles and helping them to adapt where they need. Pray and get practical. There is no magical wand. Your child will not just all of a sudden change if you have that expectation of them. Your child may not just all of a sudden start listening just because you want them to. But sometimes if you look and think, why is my child not listening sometimes? You've got to pause and say, do they feel overwhelmed, or are they just trying to be disobedient? And if they're being disobedient, is there something that they are trying to avoid? There's always a root cause to some of these things, or a reason for them. And so pause to look at if they're trying to avoid something or they're trying to be disobedient. Then you can check in with them and say, is it because, are you finding this thing difficult? Or are you just not interested? And if they say they're not interested, change the learning style. If you are wanting them to sit down on the books and they're just acting out, then put on the video and say, okay, watch this video on this matter. And then let's go back and address the question, or let's go back and address this. But let us not give up on our children. Let us not hold back and make them feel like they can't be helped or supported. And let our children not think that the only support they can get is when they're in school, but when they get home, everything goes out the window. But let us be able to be practical. Let us pray and ask God for his help and support. And most importantly, as I said, posture them well. Learn their learning styles so that they can continuously thrive. And so to summarize, the long-term impact for emotional well-being in education is our children, your child, becomes stronger academic results, and they end up having increased resilience and emotional intelligence. They have a greater self-motivation, and they love learning even more. And most importantly, less stress. There'll be less stress in your child's heart and mind when it comes to their education and learning process. And so we go back to the verse that we started with, Proverbs 18:15. An intelligent heart acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. I believe God's desire for our children and for us as those that look after them is that our children have an intelligent heart. Not just because we want them to stand out of the crowd, but because it is something that God has created for them to be and to have. And how do they get an intelligent heart? And how will they acquire knowledge? By us helping them know how to learn and how they learn so that they can become wise. So no matter what your children is learning, no matter where they are in their education, continuously allow their heart to be strengthened by supporting their learning needs, whether that be that they love to use their ears, use their eyes, use their whole body, be in the right environment, or most importantly, they are able to understand that it is not just about learning by being movement or activities. It's not just only by learning when you read and write, and it's not just by learning when you, listen to music, but actually, or listen to things, but actually it's all about also hearing God in their hearts, letting God be able to guide them in the areas that they may struggle with and in the areas that they want to succeed in. When we do this, we'll begin to see our children be more well, be more happier, be more confident, and have more validation as they continue their learning journey. And so my prayer for every parent, for every child, is that the Lord will continuously increase their well-being, and that wherever there's any child that needs to begin to learn more, listen more, and to look at things differently when they're learning. My prayer is that the Lord will give them the grace that they need to do so, and the things that obstruct them from learning, for it to be removed. And as a parent, as a guardian, that their eyes will be able to see the struggles of the children, so that you're able to provide the right methods and support that is needed for them at home and in school. And Lord, I pray for your peace and your grace over everyone. And as they help their children learn, may they continuously excel. And I speak your peace and your strength. In Jesus' name, amen. And so that is the end of today's session. If you would like to be in contact or just have any question that you want asked, WhatsApp this number, which is for Affirmed Heart, and you'll be contacted soon. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I look forward to doing another session by the grace of God. But today has been great. And if you would like to support Affirmed Heart and other ways and methods of bringing emotional well-being, education, and just wholeness to everything life and godliness, feel free to give the payer paypal.me/affirmedheart, and also the account details are also on the info of this live. Thank you so much. God's blessings. Be well, stay well, and grow well. Bye for now.